Hi everyone, my name is Elsa, welcome back to my channel. Today I want to do the second part of my February wrap-up. So, for the statistic of the entire month, I read 16 books in total, so yeah. Of them, 6 were fantasy, 3 contemporary, 4 thrillers and 3 mangas. Of them, 4 were adult novels, 4 were middle grade and 5 were young adult. Of them, 3 had own voices authors, so these were Slay, Amari and the Night Brothers, and Raybearer. And finally, 2 of them had LGBTQ+ representation, so these were Raybearer and Anxious People. I won't talk about the books I talked about in the first part of this video, so if you're interested in them, please watch the video, I'll link it down below. And today I'm only going to talk about the 10 books I read after that. So, the first one on this list is No Exit. So, No Exit is an adult thriller. We follow a college student who finds herself stranded in a gas station in the middle of a snowstorm. And she discovers at the back of a truck a young girl locked in a cage. And so the entire book is her trying to save this little girl in the middle of a snowstorm while she's trapped with 4 other people at the gas station. So, I love this book. I rated it 4 stars. And first you have to know that it's not a whodunit mystery novel. So there are 4 people in the gas station with her and you know quickly enough who did it. So it's not about that, it's not a mystery at all, there are no twists, so don't expect that either. It's just an action-packed thriller. So at the beginning I was a bit so-so about it because it starts slow and it's a bit predictable at first. And then it progressively gets better and better, and the last quarter of the book was amazing. Like, it blew me away, and that's why I rated it 4 stars, because I loved the ending and the entire last quarter so much. I listened to the audiobook for this one and it's pretty good. I don't have anything special to say about it. Then I read Endling. So Endling, I read the entire trilogy this month. I had already read the first 2 volumes of the series, but 2 years ago, so I wanted, you know, to reread them before I read the final book in the trilogy. And so the entire trilogy I rated 3 stars. So about the story. It takes place in a fantasy world, because yes, I didn't say this, it's a middle grade fantasy series. And so in this fantasy world you have a lot of different intelligent creatures. They're really original, I won't talk too much about them. Let's just say you follow Bix with a den. So den are a bit like dogs, but standing on 2 feet, and they have these things, you know, membranes under their arms, which allows them to glide on the wind like flying squirrels. And they also have the power to see when they are lied to. And this is an endangered species, there aren't many left, and one day Bix is the smallest of her pack, and her entire pack is slaughtered by human soldiers. She finds herself all alone, and the story starts with her trying to find out if she's the last one of her kind and if there aren't any more dens out there. And then she encounters you know, a lot of different characters, and there's this found family trope. She meets all these different characters that are from different species, and they kind of become her new family, and that's a trope I love, so I was there for it. So the things about this series, the world building is great, the story is great as well, the characters are great, relationships are great, everything is great. I think it just it's middle grade, so everything isn't always perfect. It's not like pushed as much as it could have been. Like, it's a bit predictable at times, and relationships are really good, you know, I'm there for it, but they could have been even better. But it's still an amazing middle grade series, and if you're interested, just go for it. Then we have Phantom Limbs. We follow our main character, Elizabeth, who one day comes home from work and finds the body of her twin sister who committed suicide. And she just blacks out and wakes up in a mental hospital. And the entire story takes place in this mental hospital, and it's basically the story of her coming to terms with what happened to her sister. And this one I didn't like, I rated it 2 stars, but it really might be only me, you know, like I really didn't enjoy my time reading it, but it could be for you. So my problems with it were that it was really slow. Like, there's no plot really, nothing really happens, and you just, you know, follow the day-to-day life of Elizabeth in this hospital, and, you know, her coming to terms with what happened. There are a lot of content warnings. There's child abuse, rape, suicide, mental diseases, especially anorexia. All of these subjects are really well handled, so that was a really good thing. And you have a lot of flashbacks about Elizabeth and Emily's life when they were little, because they have a traumatic past, and so you really dive into their past and their psychology. So this thing was really good, but like I said, I was bored reading it the entire book because nothing happens and there wasn't plot or anything, you know, to support the story. And there's this twist at the end that's good, but it couldn't, you know, redeem the fact that I was so bored reading the book. So yeah, knowing that, you might enjoy the book if you're, you know, if you're into stories with a twist at the end and a lot of introspection and that deals with that kind of subjects, but it wasn't for me. And the audiobook was pretty good for this one. Then we have Amari and the Night Brothers. I rated it 4.5 stars and I loved it. So this is the first book in a middle grade urban fantasy series. The story, it's about this girl, Amari. She's a young black girl and her brother disappeared 6 months ago. And one day she discovers that her brother actually worked for a supernatural agency, the Bureau, and he nominated her so she can go to this camp, where this summer camp, when they trained future special agents. And the Bureau is like this huge organization that's supposed to make sure that humans don't find out about the supernatural world that, you know, surrounds them, but they can't see it. And they also have to maintain peace, you know, within the supernatural world. So this was so good. It's a mix between Men in Black and Harry Potter. Let me explain. So Men in Black, because of the world building. The world building is so good in this book. And it's really, you know, close to Men in Black because you have this mix between supernatural creatures and the spatial agents thing with, you know, these gadgets and technology. And the Bureau itself, you know, it's a school setting, a bit like Harry Potter, but with, you know, the spatial, the spy thing going on, and it's so good. So you have this. The Harry Potter one is because of the school setting and because there is magic in this world as well, and with the characters have powers, and also because there is this mystery subplot, because Amari decides to go to this summer camp because she wants to investigate her brother's disappearance. And so there's a strong mystery subplot, and you had this Harry Potter 1 and 2 vibe, you know, with this strong plot at the center and also this mystery subplot on the side, and just I was there for it. It was so good. The mystery plot was so good, like perfectly handled. The twists and revelations I took me totally by surprise. You also love the characters, especially the main character Amari. She's so good. And the plot is so strong and solid and gripping, like I've never seen something like that. It's a debut novel, really. It doesn't look like it at all, like it's perfectly mastered. Incredible book. I highly recommend it. The audiobook was also incredible, so if you want to check it out, you can. Then I read Slay, that I rated 3.5 stars. So this one was a bit of a disappointment because I was hoping for more, you know. So it's a young adult contemporary novel, and the story, it's about Kira. She's a high school girl who created a few years back this video game called Slay, and that's only for black people. And so she created it because there's a lot of racism in the video game community, and she wanted black people to have a safe place to play games, and that's why she created this game. The story picks up when a young player is killed by another player because of something that happened in the game. And although Kira is in no way responsible, the media is all over the case, and there's this debate about whether or not the game is racist because it's only for black people, and Kira is afraid she's going to get sued because of that, and then the story unravels. So this book, I think, had a lot of great things going for it. A lot of heavy and important subjects are handled in this book. So you have racism in the video game community, racism in general, you have feminism, you have toxic relationships, and you also have harassment. So they were pretty well handled. I just thought that some of these subjects weren't as well handled as they could have been because the author didn't have the time and space to do it properly, and the delivery wasn't always perfect. It was heavy on the discussion side. You had these two characters that, you know, talk and talk and talk about this subject, and it's not going anywhere and it's not adding anything new to the table. But for young readers, I think this is still a very important read, because if you're not familiar with this film, you discover so much, and it's really an important read. But you know, for someone who knows this subject, you won't learn much more about it, and it doesn't really dive into it as much as I would have liked. My real problem was with the plot. It's a bit slow, but that I could have forgiven. And what I didn't forgive was the twists and revelations. They were so bad. Like, you know, you can see they're only there for the shock value, and they made no sense, and I just hated them. You also have a lot of fights, you know, in the video game, and although the video game aspect was good, the fights in themselves I didn't like. I think maybe it's just me, but the way they were written and the way they fight, I just wasn't interested. And finally, there's one thing in the plot that happens. The main character makes one decision at some point, and it's presented as super smart and brave, and I thought it was so stupid, and it kind of took me out of the story, you know, because everything that unravels after that is because of that decision, and because it was so stupid, I couldn't be there really for it, if you catch my meaning. So yeah, it was a good book overall, but I couldn't rate it higher than 3.5 stars because of these problems in the plot. Then finally we have Kingdom. Kingdom is a shonen manga. If you don't know what a shonen manga is, I did a video on that, so you can check it out. Kingdom is a historical fiction manga, so it takes place in China 2000 years ago. And we follow Shin and Hyo, who are two young boys that are very poor, and they grew up together as brothers, even though they aren't related. And they have this dream to become generals in the army, to have, you know, a great life, like with the castles and riches. And one day Hyo is brought to the palace because he looks exactly like the young emperor, but there's a coup d'etat, so Hyo is killed, and the young emperor is fleeing the capital, and Shin just has to protect him. And that's where the story starts, but then it expands so much. It's a very, very long series. I read this month volumes 4, 5 and 6. And so far I'm a bit so-so about it, because it's very original, and sometimes the story, you know, goes in directions that are very interesting, but it also has a lot of shonen tropes I hate. So this might just be me, you know, because they are tropes, they are cliche, and they became tropes because a lot of people love them. But these ones especially I don't like, and I find them all the time in this book, and so far it kind of put me off. So I'm referencing to the unrealistic fights. Like, it's supposed to be historical fiction, but the fights are totally unrealistic. Like, you can cut a man in half with a sword, and you can, you know, have 2 arrows in your chest and still be fighting. Yeah, that kind of thing I don't like, but there are still a lot of great things going on in this plot. And the character development is really good, and the plot is quite unpredictable, and I like that as well. So yeah, a lot of good things going for this book. So far it's not my favorite, so we'll see how it goes from there. That's it for me, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you read any of the books I mentioned, please tell me what you thought about them in the comments. I'd like to know. And as usual, if you like this video, please don't forget to like and subscribe. See you around, guys.